What's going on, y'all? We're back for another video on the channel. Today we got something a little different. It's the first video of this type that I've done, but that's going to be a book haul. And the reason I chose this month is because, you know, I have my weaknesses. I'll buy a big group of books at once, but it's always fun when it happens a couple times in a month. And when I started counting the number of books that I bought this month, I just quickly realized where all my money went, and that I have a bigger book buying problem than I thought, but I just figured it'd be fun to share that with you. So, like I said, the number's a lot higher than you may think, and I would like to share that number with you at the end of the video. But today, so like I said, I'm going to go through. I'm going to start with my digital purchases, because digital purchases count too, and then I'm going to go through all the physical books that I got. So, and kind of just talk and feel around, see what we come up with. All right, so starting off early this month, I bought Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. The next book I saw when it was on sale in the Kindle store, and I just had to have it because they're probably my favorite animal, and which is the otter. So I bought this book, Return of the Sea Otter, the story of the animal that evaded extinction on the Pacific coast. And I just thought that sounded like such a fun story about an animal that I love. So I had to buy it and check it out. Next up, we got Vamps by Lane Lee. So this month, I read Starstruck, which I had some pretty strong feelings about. But, you know, that's never going to stop me from checking an author's other work out. So like I said, I'm going to be checking out Vamps at some point, probably in April if I find the time. Then, with the new Batman coming out, I had to read some Batman. I had to buy some Batman comics. So I normally buy all my comics and graphic novels and stuff digitally now, just because it saves space when you start buying issues upon issues of a comic run. It just makes things much more condensed. So this month I bought Batman The Long Halloween, Batman Year One. I bought Batman The Damned and Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Like I said, a lot of those, I knew they were famous Batman stories. I'd really not too familiar with them. I just know that those are like some of the iconic ones. I did read The Damned, however, when I got it this month, because I know it was one that piqued my interest a couple years ago when it came out. You know, the Batman and the idea of him going to hell seemed like a lot of fun. A lot of neat characters. So John Constantine and stuff like that. So it was something that piqued my interest, and like I said, I checked it out, and I don't know, I had some mixed feelings about it, but we'll get to more of that later in a different video. Next up, I bought East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I bought The Adventure Zone, The Crystal Kingdom, which I think is the 4th volume, but the McElroys are a local D&D podcasters, content creators, and they're from my area, so it's something I gotta represent. I saw it on sale in the Kindle store, and there's something I've always been wanting to get around to reading, but I figured if I had a chance to buy it for a couple bucks, why not shell out the money and go ahead and get it. So like I said, that's something down the road. I'd love to start reading and check out more of their content, but I had to support a local content creator. Next up, I bought Yearbook by Seth Rogen. I had Yearbook audiobook, and I've listened to it, and I really loved it. So like I said, it's one of those, give them my support and buy it in all mediums. And it's one of those, I like having a physical book so I can read, because I'm sure there's some stuff I missed in the audiobook, just not having to put my full attention into listening. So like I said, I might reread some sections that I really like this year, check out some sections that I don't remember too well, kind of go back and forth on that. So next up, I got The Last House on Needless Street, story I'm not too familiar with. I've heard a lot of people talk about it and gas it up, so it was something I was excited to check out. This was a digital purchase for my wife because she is a Sarah J. Maas stan. So House of Breath and Sky, we got that digitally, and she's consumed it and is already trying to ruin my April TBR by making me read the first 2 Crescent City books. Next up is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I've read Coraline and the Norse mythology book he put out, and I loved both of them. So like I said, Neil Gaiman is I feel like a locked author for me if I ever find some of his stuff for cheap, or I just am taking a hankering for that type of fantasy storytelling, I'm going to check his stuff out. So, copped it. Next up, I got The Golden Girls Forever, an unauthorized look behind the lanai. So, like I said, I'm a Golden Girls stan. I remember growing up watching the reruns with my grandmother, and I've loved it since then. So, like I said, that was something I saw on sale, had to check out. Again, with the Batman theme, I wanted to check out one of these, like, Arkham Knight adaptations. So I bought Batman Arkham Knight, The Riddler's Gambit. I think it was like 99 cents. So I was okay. Saga 57 I copped this month and read immediately. I think I read it the morning it came out, and woo, yeah, it's good. I'm excited to see what they do in April, or in Saga 58. Then today I made 2 purchases of Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. He's an author that I've been wanting to check out, and he's on here again later. So, and then this just piqued my interest for some reason. It was The True History of Merlin the Magician. It seemed like a lot of fun, and I was like, well, why not? You know, that's how it goes. All right, so now we move on to physical books, and I will say the number jumps up a lot because I bought a few box sets this month, but hey, they still count. So I'll start off with this one. This was a purchase for my wife. Like I said, she is a Sarah J. Maas stan, and we were out and she found this nice hardback collector's edition of Court of Thorn and Roses, which is her favorite series by her is now. It says her favorite series of all time. She's waiting for the second one, the second collector's edition, Court of Mist and Fury. That is her favorite book. So like I said, I had to get that for her, and I thought it was a beautiful book, and it's making me more excited to check the series out. So next up, we got a classic Stephen King, Salem Lot. I feel like the OG vampire, other than Dracula, but like in modern day, you know, that's the story that I feel like is a must read, especially of his works. I think it was in his first big run with Pet Sematary, The Shining, Carrie, and all those. And like I said, it's just one I've always been wanting to get around to, and I finally saw an opportunity when I was at a bookstore this month doing a big group book purchase, so I figured I'd pick it up. Next up, we got Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. I feel like this is I think I've spoiled this for myself just because this book is like close to 100 years old, I think, or like 80 or something like that, so it's kind of hard to not get spoilers for a book that old. I've read Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, and she's one of those classic authors. Like, you're going to pick something up from her and read. If you read a lot of different books, like, it's just how it goes. But I feel like that's probably one of the origins of the big plot twist, you know, from what I understand, especially in the modern idea of storytelling. Something I was really excited to check out, even though I'm pretty sure I know what happens at the end of the book. Oh well, we'll see how it goes. Next up, I'm a big D&D fan, and this month I saw online, I had never heard of these, and it's The Legend of Drizzt, Book 1, Homeland. It's set in the Forgotten Realms D&D setting. Like I said, as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, there we go. I think this is like a 13 or 17 book series. It's something crazy like that. I was like, I'll check it out. I've heard R.A. Salvatore is a guy whose name I see a lot, especially around the fantasy communities. And he's an author who I was going to try out at some point. And the second I saw that he wrote in a D&D campaign setting, I was like, oh, that's easy. So I had to pick that up. Next up, we had a book series that I had no idea about until the last month when I was reading some list on like a ranked page or something like that. And it was like best video games books or something like that. I can't remember exactly how this was, but apparently this was on there. It was Monster Hunter International. And I don't think it's actually linked to the Monster Hunter video games, but I think it may have drawn some inspiration. Just reading the back of the book, it sounded nothing like the Monster Hunter video games. Like, this is much more intense. Seems like a much more adult, action-packed version of that universe. But nevertheless, I saw it. It seemed like something exciting, something different. And then I had a conversation, or I saw a comment. I've got busy with work lately and I hadn't had a chance to reply to it yet. but they were talking about what was on my Blood Meridian review, and they brought up this story and kind of the inspiration for it, the inspiration for a movie that they were talking about in relation to Blood Meridian. It was a long, very thought out, very well done post, and they kind of inspired this purchase. So thank you for that if you're out there watching. So this, The Heart of Darkness, this is like a short story collection by Joseph Conrad. I think there's 5 or 6 stories in here, but the titular story is the one I'm most interested in reading because of a movie that it inspired. Next up, like I said, we got Chuck Palahniuk, who's making a comeback on the list after Haunted earlier, and that is Damned. I saw this cover and I was immediately drawn to it because it's like the devil on the cover, and then it was Damned. And then I saw it was Chuck Palahniuk, and I was like, this guy has written some wild books. So the author of Fight Club, the author of Haunted, the author of many other wild and semi-transgressive books. So he was someone, and then I read the back of it and I was hooked. So I don't know, we might be seeing that book in April sometime, but like I said, when I get to my April TBR later, you'll see that April's pretty packed for me right now. Dance of Thieves. This book was a purchase for my wife because she was excited to get into some new series as she finished up House of Breath and Sky this month. And then this was also purchased for Caraval. I'm not sure what either of these books are about, honestly. I know they're fantasy-esque, and that's about all I got for you guys. All right. These next 2 books. So I went to the Lexington Comic-Con thanks to a buddy of mine. Shout out TD. Love you, brother. So I went to Lexington Comic-Con, and as soon as I walked in, also this was my first ever Comic-Con, so it was really exciting, really had a great time there, met some great people, and I met an author who sold me on these 2 books. I decided to check him out. His name's David Joel Stevenson. He wrote The Surface's End and Victor Boone Will Save Us. Like I said, I'll probably talk. I actually read this one, and you'll get my opinions in that in my wrap-up. But like I said, so this is this one. Oof. All right, and then like I said, this one, even after reading the first one, I'm still really excited to check this one out because I think I can, from what I've been read online, he's definitely grown a lot since writing this book, and apparently his writing improves very much in this book. But like I said, he's an author who he sold me on his books face to face, and I was just like, you know, why not? You know, the worst case scenario, I spend a couple hours reading the books that I don't like. But I definitely was excited to get to meet some people like that at the con. All right. And then next up, so like I said, I do book of the month, which if you don't do, you need to do if you're a big reader, because you pay $15 for your monthly subscription, which is a beautiful hardcover book that you can pick from a certain selection of, and then you can do add-ons. So then you get to pay 10 extra bucks for a nice hardcover book. So this in March, like I said, I normally don't read my book of the months until later because I schedule my TBRs in advance, so it's kind of hard to do it the same month that I get them. So this month I fully loaded out and went with the 3 books, and I had my book of the month selection was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. She's an author. She did the guest list, and I've heard incredible things about it, and just seen on like Book Talk and BookTube and everything, I've seen great things about this book. So I'm very excited to check it out. She'll be a first-time author for me, and we'll see where it goes. Next up, we got Circe, which is Madeline Miller. She wrote Song of Achilles, which I read this month, and I really enjoyed. So I'm looking forward, even more so now, jumping into Circe at some point in the near future. And then this book, like I said, I'm a big nerd for Arthurian legend, so when I saw Half Sick of Shadows, I had to check it out. So this is kind of a feminist retelling of the Arthurian legends that we all know and may love or may not. I do. All right, next up we have also something that I feel like I've not talked about on the channel, and I really don't talk about people much at all, but I have a deep love for poetry. I really do. I enjoy reading poetry and just, you know, especially these type of poetry books. So I read both of these. I didn't own them. I borrowed them from someone and read them, but that is Rupi Kaur's two books, or two of her books, I should say. It is Milk and Honey and The Sun and Their Flowers. And like I said, both of them excellent. I reread some sections every once in a while, kind of just refresh, you know, experience those emotions all over again. Love it. Next up, another poetry book, an author who I never read before, but like I said, you can see I've kind of read a little bit here and there, and that is Courtney Peppernell and Her Pillow Thoughts. I think there's 4 of these now, and from all I can tell so far, I love it. It's the same style, that modern, brief, powerful writing that's so fun. All right, next up, we have Colleen Hoover. She blew me away with Verity, and like I said, I can't wait to read more. I don't know what else to say. If you are wondering what I'm talking about with Verity, then go check out my Verity book review, because it's excellent, and she's an author who she's hooked me in, and I think I'm gonna have to jump on the bandwagon. Next up, I bought Lord of the Rings, this little box set. I didn't have a synchronous, or I didn't have a matching set. There we go. I didn't have a matching set of Lord of the Rings, and I just wanted one, so this was like 15 bucks. So I was like, all right, you know, it's one of those. Also, I was excited, you know, think about Lord of the Rings. It's that classic fantasy series. When I was down at Con, I saw this, and it was one of those I had to shell out and get it. So it is a wood-burned map of Middle-earth, and that is just gorgeous. I love it. All right. Sorry, I just had to geek out on that because I thought it was great. Next up, we have an author who I also read in the month of March, and that is Miss Leigh Bardugo. I always say it wrong. So apologies, Miss Leigh Bardugo. And that is her Six of Crows duology. Like I said, she's an author who is really big in that kind of YA-ish fantasy space, and I'm excited to check her out. Next up, this was a strange purchase, but it was one of those, I got hooked into like these YouTube videos, and it inspired this purchase. So I don't know if I'll like them or not, but we'll see. And that is the Five Nights at Freddy books. So I bought the first 4, and I figured I was gonna check them out because the old game theorist hooked me in this month, as he does with just random series all the time. So like I said, I'm gonna check those out and see if they'll be fun. Yeah, they probably will be, but like I'm not expecting to be blown away. I'm just expecting a light read, have some good fun. Next up, we have a book that was kind of I think it was early this month, and it was kind of a big deal with some news and politics and whatnot, and that was Maus. I didn't know too much about it. I knew conceptually what it is, but it's something I'm excited to check out and see what. I kind of read into what was going on with it, but like I said, it was just one of those I was excited to check out. All right, next up, I have a classic, Dante's Inferno, which is also inspired by another YouTube video. Actually, no. I watched that video because I was inspired by Miss Leigh Bardugo and her book, The Ninth House. That inspired that purchase. And then this is She Kills Monsters, which is like a play. I accidentally bought the Young Adventurer's Guide, but I don't expect it to be too much different. I don't expect them to be missing too much. Like I said, it was just something I'd heard about. I thought it seemed fun. Next up, I had never read Chronicles of Narnia, so I bought this little box set. I don't know if I'm gonna like them. Maybe I've reading them too late in life, but we'll see. Like I said, it's something, I feel like it's one of those you have to read. It's like if you're gonna be a fantasy reader, you gotta read Lord of the Rings, you gotta read Chronicles of Narnia, you gotta read Harry Potter. Like, you just have to. Those are obligations to call yourself a fantasy fan. And that's something I'm gonna be taking care of quite soon. And this last 2 purchases, these 2 were inspired by a conversation I had with a viewer on the channel. my Blood Meridian book review. He was talking about Blood Meridian and the work of art that it is, and just how incredible the book is. And he started talking about just Cormac McCarthy and his writing in general. And the conversation just kind of inspired me to do this. And I will be reading these this month. And like I said, hopefully be able to talk to him again about Mr. Cormac McCarthy. So thank you for that. All right, and the two books that I bought of Mr. Cormac McCarthy's are No Country for Old Men and The Road, which I've heard The Road is some people's favorite novel of all time. So that made me feel even better about it. So that was my book haul for March. A lot more than I expected to be buying this month, and I have a problem. So that brings us in finally for a grand total of 58 books, which pains me to say now because I know that is like a year's worth of reading, and like, apologies for that hard cut. I record these videos on my phone, so the video was so long that I ran out of storage. Normally my videos are not that long, but like I was saying, this is a year's worth of reading. But you know, this is what you love. You love reading. Who cares? You know that you're gonna read them at some point. It's just a matter of when. So that's really all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, let me know. Like I said, I can do this every month if that's something you guys would want to see. But if not, oh well, I'll do it every once in a while when I feel like it. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, stay reading, y'all.